All right, welcome back everybody. Love this week's lesson. This is going to be Can't Get Enough by Bad Company, released in 1974, I believe. Just a monster rock tune, and it's got some great stuff going on guitar that I didn't fully understand until I did some deep dive on the interwebs. But there's some interesting tuning stuff going on here. So I'm going to show you how to play this in the tuning that they used on the record, which is a very odd tuning. I'm also going to show you how to do it on a more conventional open G tuning. And I'll show you how to do it in standard as well, the rhythm guitar parts. The lead guitar parts are probably all in standard tuning, so I'll walk through that as well. But I thought the really cool part is the rhythm, so I'm going to focus on a lot of that on the lesson here today. So if this is the kind of thing you like and you haven't done so yet, I invite you to click subscribe and ring the bell. The bell will let you know when I drop new content, which I do every single week. All my videos have chapters in them, so you can jump right to the part of the lesson that you want to see and bypass what you don't. And if you're looking for other ways to support the channel, I appreciate that. There's thanks, which is like throwing a tip in the tip jar. Or you can join my Patreon page where I have chord charts and tabs for all the lessons like this one that I do on YouTube. And the links are in the description. Check it out. Okay, so Can't Get Enough. So guitar player for this band in Bad Company is a guy named Mick Ralphs. And I believe he was also in Mott the Hoople, which some of you might remember. All the Young Dudes, that written by David Bowie, but it was their song, their record. Anyway, so he joined up with Paul Rogers and the drummer from Free, forget his name, and then another bass player, and they formed Bad Company. And this is one of the songs on, I think their first record, or one of their first records. So the tuning, let's talk about the tuning that he uses. So it's actually it's an open C tuning. Yeah, so when you play an open chord, you're in C, right? So the way that this is accomplished is I'm going to take my 6th string, which I'm really not going to play a lot. I'm going to take that 6th string and I'm going to tune it up to a G. I'm going to take my 5th string and I'm going to tune it up to a C. I'm going to take my D string and I'm going to tune that D string all the way up to a G. Yeah, so it's G, C, G. That one's on the verge of snapping. It's really tight, but that'll make it. I'm using Ernie Ball 9s, by the way. Now here's where the real tricky part is. So the 3rd string is actually tuned all the way up to an E. Okay, so you could take that G string and try to tune it all the way up to an E. I've seen some guys do that on YouTube, but I said, no, I don't want to deal with the snaps. So I just took my G string and my E string, my 3rd and 1st string, and I swapped them. So this string that's on the 3rd position now is actually what normally is my 1st string. This is an E, or E. I'll tune it to an E. The B string I tune up to a C. That's the E, that's the C. And I've moved my 3rd string, which is now in the 1st string position, and I tune that to a C. So these last 2 strings are in unison. Okay, so when you go from string to string, okay, so believe that's the tuning. Done some research and that seems to be the tuning that he's using. So an open chord, open major chord is just straight across at any fret. And you're doing the sort of like what Keith Richards does, that position. And for the most part, I'm muting this 6th string for all the chords that I'm doing, right? It's sort of not, at least for the C, I don't want that low one in there. The others, you can leave it in there if you want. But for the most part, I'm muting it. Okay. So let me take a time out there. In terms of tone, I'm using my 50 watt Marshall Plexi Reissue. I'll leave all the settings and everything down below. I have no pedals going into that thing. It's just straight in. I've got the attenuator, the power station on it, bringing the overall volume down so I don't blow my house down. But I've got it cranked pretty good. I've got the tone rolled off though. You notice it's not super bright, that sound. So that's the tone I've got now. All right, so back to the chords. So that intro is just a C, and again, I'm just grabbing it from the 5th string. And not too much worried about strings 1 and 2. Maybe I catch one of them. Now I'm going to my F, and I'm going to do the suspended on that, which is more like that's like a B flat, actually, to an F. Again. Right, so that's the opening phrase. And then during the verses, it's the same chords. It's just sort of played with the muted, with the meat of your right hand. Right? And on the record, you've got 2 guitars, if I'm not mistaken. You have one on one side, which is clearly doing the... Then you have a guitar on the other side, same tuning, it's just doing the chords. Doing the rock and roll thing. He's not doing so much of that. Anyway, so that's the intro in the first part of the verse. Now go to our 5th, which is a G. Then you slide up 4 frets, or 1, 2, 3 frets to the 10th fret, which is a voicing of B flat again. That's the one we played earlier, but we're up here. Back down to 5, and you pull off 3 to open. Right? So let me run through that again. So that's really all the verse formations. I think that's really all the formations throughout the whole song, right? Now you could do a version of the first guitar solo in this tuning. I'm not gonna spend a lot of time on it, because I don't think that's how it was done on the record. But you can do a very credible version of the first solo in this tuning, and it looks like this. Super hard to do. It's not in any kind of intuitive way of how you know a guitar, because that's third string is higher than the others. It's very odd, but you could get away with that. The other solos at the end, it's pretty impossible to do. Anyway, I'm not even going to attempt it. I'm going to show you on the other tunings. So there's another open tuning that you can use and play this song, and it sounds so much like the record, almost indistinguishable, is an open G tuning. And the open G tuning, many of you may be familiar with. It's the Keith Richards tuning. Not just Keith Richards. Jimmy Page uses it a lot. It's all over the place. But those strings are tuned D, G, D, G, B, and D. And open chord is now a G with this tuning, right? So your C is on the 5th fret. So back to the chords of the song, right? The intro is going between a C, and then it moves to B flat to F, and it uses that suspension, which now we're gonna do the official Keith suspension chord. Again, I'm sort of muting the 6th string. I'm really not. Like my finger is laying here and it's sort of up against it. Right? So. Right? And then our verses. C, B flat to F, B flat, that's F. You can go down, go up to 12, up to 15, then back to your F. And then where on the C tuning, you had that down to 3 and you pulled off. Here, your interval is, so that's your C. So you're sort of doing a version of that pull off on the 8th fret with whatever fingers you want. I just went index finger, or you can ring finger. So that's all there is to that one. And that sounds just like it, right? It's just super, super close. Well, you can do the solos in this tuning. Both of them, the first one and the outro solo, you can actually do it. I'll have tabs for that for everybody. I'll sort of play around with it here a little bit just to show you, but all the exact I'll have on the tabs on my Patreon just to let you know. But that first one, it's sort of the same. And right, and again, on the record that was played, there are 2 separate lines. There's a harmony going on. One guy's playing one string, the other guy's playing the other string. But you can sort of do both of them. And then this little part, something like that. You ever notice that little nuance on that part of the solo? One of them's bending minor. And then on the last one, it goes very major. Right? So it's not major every time. It's not, you know, it's. And then that last little bit. know if you're going to attempt the whole thing in open G, but you can do all of it if you wanted to. Right? And then the rest of the outro solo is mostly on a C minor pentatonic. Now we've tuned down the 6th, the 5th, and the 1st string, but the middle, the 2, 3, and 4 strings are all the same. And if you ever, messed around with soloing in this tuning, it's a little weird, a little wonky when you first try it, but there's a lot that's the same, right? Right, so your normal C minor pentatonic here. That's all of that's still there. You just have to move up 2 frets if you're going up on that D string, but most of it's there, right? The solo at the end kicks in with the, which is a great, that little note there, what's happening is that's over a G, right? And that note there, so great. It's like it's a sharp 5, over a G chord. It's super. It's like a transitional where you can lead into your tension and release, right? Now you're back to your C. And then he flirts around with the major one. So that open G tuning really can nail this song, but that's where everything is. Again, the note for note solos will be in my Patreon. Let's actually look at it in all of this in standard tuning too. All right, standard tuning. So basic chords again for the rhythm, it's C, B flat, F, and so here's where you got to give up something, which is that you didn't have to with the open tunings, right? If you want to get that, you can, but you sort of have to sacrifice one of these bass strings to really get it. You can do, clean this up a little bit. So that'll keep that low string, but you don't get that. So just decide which is more important to you. Because you got the bass there with you. If you're playing this live, maybe that works. Or right? And then you're on to your verses. Or you can do it up here. Then slide up to B flat, back to F. And then here you just sort of got to pick which way to go. You can do this is for that, right? On the open tunings, you had sort of a cleaner way to do it to get all the strings. But this one, if you want to do it off of this C, you do that. Right? Or something like that. My ear wants to hear that. All right, and then we're into our first solo. And actually, like the other tunings, you can credibly do the first solo on a single guitar. But now in this harmony part, you can't at the end. So anyway, I'll break out the split if you want to play these with another guitar player and do single note. All of that will be broken out on my tabs on Patreon. And then that outro solo is all off of C minor pentatonic, and I find it easiest to play everything off of this position. Right? That's not exactly it, but it's all in that position. But that little intro, I love that. Like I said a minute ago, that it's that G chord with that sharp 5. And then you go major. Lost my place a little bit, but that's where everything is. It's right there on the minor and then on the major. He just does major just for a little bit. All right. Well, that is Can't Get Enough by Bad Company. Hope you learned something new today. If you like what you saw and you haven't done so yet, please click subscribe and ring the bell. The bell will let you know when I drop new content, which I do every single week. Let me know in the comments what you think about this lesson, and if there's another one you want me to take on and do something similar, let me know what that is too. But until next week, take care, everybody.